Hello, welcome to Dissident Canada. My name is Tyler. Once again, it is a Friday White Pill edition of Dissident Canada. Today I have no grand, all encompassing great news or, a bunch of small stories. I'm just going to remind everybody that as frustrating as it is right now, and there's a lot of things to be frustrated about, all right? Real, earnest to goodness progress takes a whole hell of a lot of time. You can't just do it overnight. You can't just do it by decree because it doesn't work. Like if you try to reorient society overnight, it just goes to hell in a handbasket. Like you can talk to the communists in China, you can talk to the communists or what's left of the communists in Russia. All right? It does not last long. You can read about what happened in the French Revolution and the holy hell that wrought for like 2 or 3 generations afterwards. Like by the time of World War II, right now this is more than that. That's like 100 years later or something by definition. You're still having European elite being terrified of what happened in the French Revolution repeating. Like, you don't want that. You want it to be slow and steady. It's very much like the story of the tortoise and the hare. All right? The tortoise won. It's because the rabbit got overconfident, and lost. But you need that slow, gradual change so that you eventually, because it takes time, it's painfully slow. It's slow, 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 and then all at once. That's the way you want to do it. And you can see in real time the Overton window shifting to more moderate positions, it's across everywhere. Like if you watch the mainstream propagandists, even they are having more moderate people on, the depending on which flavor of propaganda you are looking at, there's always that one person on the propaganda show that is the crazy person for that side's perspective. And more often than not, that crazy person is now being more moderate in nature and being like, well, look, here you go. Or what is it? CNN has that one guy who just keeps, like, for mainstream media, all right, keeps dunking on the crazy batshit hosts that are around him. And it's like you're getting there. You've also got, I think it's on CNN, that not pollster guy. He doesn't run the polls, but he interprets them. He continues to be not entirely wrong, and showing that yeah, Trump is up and like the people are with Trump. And that's from fucking CNN, all right? So we're getting there. Like you are seeing consistent, strong support in Europe for populist voices. You continue to see the want and the need for populist voices in Canada. People still think that the Conservative Party could be that. That's they'll get on pace soon enough. Anyways, where was I? You continue to see the populist support grow across the world, even though potentially we may see a hiccup in the next year due to the economic fallout that's has nothing to do with politicians for the most part. I mean, yeah, COVID had a big deal to what's going on in the background, but like it's just mechanically what's going to continue to happen if nothing changes in the banking system. But like the one thing that I think people are looking at wrong, and I will tell a story here, is the report that came out I think a month or so ago about I think the first quarter of this year or potentially total last year of arrests for online speech in the UK. It was like 10, just slightly over 10,000 people being arrested for online speech. Um, and like that's bad. Don't get me wrong, but look at it the other way. There were more than 10,000 people in the UK that knew the risks of speaking out and still spoke up. Um, all over Europe, you would continually have um, anti-war messaging grow, anti-EU messaging grow, anti-globalist messaging grow, and like I've basically written off Europe for most of my lifetime because they just seem to get everything wrong. Like every time they hit a point of pass fail, they just end up failing for the most part. They do some okay things here and there. Um, the reason why you get the chance to reject cookies on on websites is all because of the EU. So they did do something right now. They should have just fucking outlawed it all outright, but you know, hey, we're gonna get there eventually. Um, or just like think about how many people now compared to 2 years ago even are, let's say, just skeptical of pharma, big pharma in general. Like we're seeing this monumental shift take place across the spectrum on a whole host of topics. All right, like think about like all the stuff that Alex Jones was talking about in the mid 90s, and now people are just accepting that as, oh yeah, no, that's totally the truth. We're 30 years away from that, and like what Alex Jones was talking about is now like mainstream enough that if you talk to people about at least some of it, they're like, oh yeah, no, that's yeah. Like even the more ridiculous thing that went viral of they're turning the frogs gay. Like there's a growing number of people that understand that yes, Alex Jones was, you know, over exaggerating there, but the truth of the matter of what he's talking about is, hey, there's this chemical. It's a pesticide that when introduced into frog populations, uh, frogs will switch gender. So, you know, it I think we should really call it they're transing the frogs, which then leads into the next thing that's a monumental shift that I didn't think would happen in my lifetime. Like we've most likely hit peak pride. Like if you compare, I think I said this last week, but if you compare pride this year to previous years, like you hit the bell. We're past the top of the bell curve. We are descending on that bullshit. We are fucking done with that shit. I know there's still elites and you know the people I refer to as the nobility and power still pushing it, but like the people are having less and less of that shit as possible. Like um Canadians are in an uproar because oh god, it's I think it's Toronto. A Toronto district school board has one route, uh, a bus route being driven by a drag queen. I think it is. I don't think it's full on trans, and no, I do not 100% understand the fucking categories these people have because they're fucking nuts. But like all of Canada that has seen that is like, what the fuck are you doing? And this is Canada. We're one of the more liberal countries in the world. Even though I'd say that's really a manufacturing of, mainstream media narrative control. But that's generally how the world works. There is no liberal bias. There is a manufactured liberal bias by the mainstream. There is an actual, I would say, right-leaning bias when you're out in the world proper, if not an outright conservative bias. That really depends on where you are. But if you get rid of that manufactured reality, which is slowly happening even here in Canada, the manufactured reality slowly disappears. It takes time. And this is why I'm actually really hopeful, is because we're seeing this slow, consistent progress, this slow, steady buildup of, Overton window changing, reality snapping back, however you want to describe it, which means it's most likely on pace for a long lasting change, which is what we want. We don't want to have to constantly have this battle, these same fucking battles over and over and over again, and just, oscillate on like a 30-year, 30-year peak cycle. So, what I'm saying is it takes 30 years to peak of crazy, and then you got 30 years down to the next peak of anti-crazy, and then you just oscillate, so forth and so forth. So it looks like what are those things called? An oscilloscope. So it looks like you're just, reading something on an oscilloscope. You're reading the pulse width modulation of, say, a VRM. Ugh. So, like, we're just remember that even with all the bad things that are happening, all right, such as this week we had Diddy, mostly getting off scot-free for the horrendous crimes that, in all likelihood, he committed. Like, Diddy is probably, at least one order of magnitude larger of a criminal than Epstein, and that's just because, like, think about this. Epstein's like this weird, like, former banker guy that, like, rolls with rich people. So for him to convince people to do crimes, it's kind of hard, or the crimes that he committed it's more difficult. Whereas, like, Diddy can suck almost anybody into a Diddy party because he's fucking Puff Daddy. Like, you get invited to a party by a rapper, why not go? Like, you can suck more people in there with that star magnetism. But even with that undesirable outcome, it is now, you're starting to see that build up in the legal space for these sex trafficking crimes of people being like, no, these prosecutions were absolute cover-ups, which this was. I think Viva Fry has a video on it, exactly what went wrong. But I would also highly recommend you go check out Good Logic. That is Lawgic, I believe is how he spells it. I know there's law instead of logic. So go check out Joe over at Good Logic, because he was actually there in the not specifically the room, but he was live at the court in one of the, hey, this is where you go to watch the trial areas. So he knows the most about it, but, like, dude, it was a cover-up. And like, everybody online is like, this was a fucking cover-up job. I still think there's a good chance Diddy gets whacked, because do you want Diddy out on the streets if you're the criminal conspiracy behind him? Has he outlived his usefulness is the question we all should be asking. But my point is, again, you are seeing this slow, steady buildup on every topic that dissidents have been talking about for decades. Like, you can even now sort of talk about the Fed. Now, the conclusion that the dissidents have about the Federal Reserve and central banks in general is completely and utterly wrong. But instead of looking like quacks, more and more people are listening, even though, again, they're wrong. But that's because the banking system and the monetary system is created to be as complicated as fucking possible and impenetrable to the average person without having someone walk you through what's going on. Like, how puts and calls works, and that's just really simple shit. Like, the fact that it's called a put and a call instead of like, oh, you're betting for it to go up or down. That's all you're doing. I mean, it's a little bit more complicated than that, but that's in essence what you're doing. Or like, swap spreads and shit like that. Really, like, swap spreads, incredibly important indicator, completely esoteric. There's no way to talk to, the average person and say why, the 4-month swap spread on this treasury yield is extremely fucking important and a predictive value. There's no way to have that conversation yet. The day might one day come where the understanding is there. I'm still waiting for the day they get rid of central banks, and then all the dissidents, dissident finance gets what they want, and then they're like, no, the Fed doesn't do anything. Oh God, what's going on? And they actually have to learn something instead of creating bullshit out of nothing. But that's just personal me wanting to be right and rubbing it in people's faces. Yes, I am an asshole. That won't change. That is ingrained in me. Anyways, that's the video for today. I hope it at least, gives you some positive feeling that while we are in relatively dark times, we are making that progress. You just have to look. It is slow, but it is steady, and it is very consistent. So, I hope everybody has a good week. I will see you on Monday with something. I'll probably lean into maybe more of a black pill because it's kind of how I'm feeling with how things are shaking out with specifically Iran and Israel and shit like that. So that's probably Monday, but who knows? It could be something else. It could be something good. It could be something worse. But until then, have a great weekend. See you in the next video.